I'm impressed that you people are all doing this. It's fabulous, and I'm very grateful to Nobu Ling, to so Annie, you're a member there, and it's I think it's great. What a great initiative, especially with COVID and even post-COVID. It allows, well, incredible things like this to occur. Now, in terms of moving forward, we've got about, as I understand it, about, maybe Erin we've got about 90 minutes where we do something sort of formal, then what, about half an hour then after that of discussion. Is that about right? So about 2 hours? Is that sitting with most people's expectations? Cool. Okie dokie. I'm not going to talk for an hour and a half. we're going to do some things, because this has to be enjoyable, and we want you to experience things. We can just give information. It can be just like a lecture. It can be like just going to lecture and say, okay, well, there's the 3 of this, the subset of 3 of that, the 9 of that, the 4 of that, the 5 of that. But we don't need to, because I think what we want to do in Buddhist philosophy is to change the mind. We want to change our mind and our attitudes. That's right. But we also want to have a good time. This should be really a positive and beneficial experience. And it's so much harder with doing it online like this. So I appreciate that. Now, what I suggest we do, if this is okay, we do the first minute or few minutes, maybe just 5 minutes of simple breathing meditation, because we've all probably raced here. Hello iPhone. I don't know your name. Oh, you're in a car. Oh my God. Okay, how's that? Okay, we'll keep you. Thank you very much, iPhone. Thank you very much. So we've got you. You're in the loop. Thank you. Is that Kodo? Kodo. Hello. Do you want to say something, or are you?
Yes.
Okay. Can you safely say something?
Yeah. I live in my van, and we have a really cloudy day today in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So the Wi-Fi, which I don't have in my van, is touchy. So I may come and go. I'm sorry.
Sure. That's okay. Okay. Well, look, I'm so impressed. That you're making the effort. So you get 10 out of 10 for effort. Thank you very much. Okay. So okay, okay. So what we'll do is we'll just do 5 minutes of simple breathing meditation, because we're a very diverse group of people, and it's a good opportunity. There's always too many things to do, but I suppose in life, what I found, and probably you found too, is when the mind is scattered, takes a lot. It's a lot harder to get things done. So that's a problem with a very scattered mind, and a very immediate problem. But when the mind's a little bit more settled, then it's easier to figure out what to do, and to make decisions. And the decisions. So have we got a? You've shared a file. Oh, okay. Oh, good. Okay. Good. Good. Let's have a look at that. Oh.
These are the practice and for the tablet.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And also the PDFs.
Okay. Let's have a look at it. Oh, good. Oh, here. Oh, how cool. Excellent. Look at that. Okay. Oh, wow. You guys are so well organized. Amazing. So if you download that, good. Oh, you're way too organized. You are just so way too organized. It's embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassed. Okay. So okay. Good. What we'll do, well, if you download that, if you've got the capacity, and this might be difficult, people on iPhones and things like this, but okay, take a second to download that, and then when people are comfortable with that and they've been able to access it, download it to your desktop or something, and then we'll be able to do the various prayers and everything to start the day. Wow, really cool. You guys are amazing. Very, very good. Very, very good. Wow. Good. Okay, so there's all sorts of, this is great. This is absolutely great. But what we'll do today is we will, once people have got that, we're going to go and we'll do the prayers. We'll do a little bit of meditation, then we'll do the prayers, and then the meditation just to calm down. So what I suggest we do is still do the little bit of breathing meditation. So if for those, just briefly recount what is breathing meditation. Breathing meditation is just to focus on one simple object, which is the breath. The breath goes in and out the nostrils. We breathe through the nostrils, goes into the lungs, and then we don't hold it. We don't try to suppress the natural rhythm, but then we just expel it, and then it, and that's what we do. It's really simple. So, we're just going to do that for 5 minutes. So try for those 5 minutes to keep your mind sort of on the job. That'll be okay. So, and just be very calm and very relaxed. So just 5 minutes of breathing meditation, and we'll just start that now. I think that's enough because we don't want to, we've got time is very precious. We'll just now, if we go to those that PDF we just downloaded, then we can see the refuge. Oh, hello, Tashi.
Oh, I apologize.
That's okay. And now I've shared the screen for that. Can you see the PDF there? Taking refuge in bodhicitta. Can you see those prayers? They should be scared. Okay, cool. Okay, good. Okay, so we're going to say them together now. The first one, we'll just say them in English for the first time. So, okay. I take the first, taking refuge in generating bodhicitta, we say 3 times. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigrating beings. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. Okay, now the mandala offering. So we can do this mudra if you're comfortable doing that or if you know how to do it. It's a bit complex, but it symbolizes the the universe. We're offering the universe to the Buddha and the holy beings. This ground is blessed with scent and with flowers strewn, adorned with Mount Meru, the four lands, sun and moon. Transformed as a pure land and offered, may all wandering beings enjoy this pure land. Now the inner mandala offering. All these objects of my mind's three poisons, coveted friend, foe and stranger, body, wealth, worldly pleasure, without a feeling of loss I surrender. Receive them, please, and free all beings from their bondage. Good, then we just go, Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamniya Tayami. So we can do, so just, I just ask. So Shayla, do we normally do the Heart of Wisdom and such like that as well, or just we don't want to spend too much time on prayers if we haven't got
Entirely up to you.
Okay,
yeah.
I think we'll just gloss over that for the moment. What we will do is the foundation of all good qualities is you should be able to see that on the screen. That's a brief Lamrim meditation practice. We'll just do the first 4 verses in it because this is to do with the lower scope, and then it also does with the topic we've got, which is to do with death and rebirth. So the foundation of all good qualities by Lama Tsongkhapa. The foundation of all good qualities is the kind and perfect pure Guru. Correct devotion to them is the root of the path. By clearly seeing this and applying great effort, please bless me to rely upon them with great respect. Understanding that the precious freedom of this rebirth is found only once, is greatly meaningful and is difficult to find again. Please bless me to generate the mind that unceasingly, day and night, takes its essence. Whoops, sorry. Won't be a second. This life is as impermanent as a water bubble. Remember how quickly it decays and death comes. After death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results of black and white karma follow. So that verse there is to do with death and impermanence. So this life is as impermanent as a water bubble. Remember how quickly it decays and death comes. After death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results of black and white karma follow. Finding firm and definite conviction in this, please bless me always to be careful, to abandon even the slightest negative action and accomplish all virtuous deeds. So that's a simple that's a simple meditation on the lower scope and that last 2 verses are to deal with the topic of death and impermanent, their death and reincarnation, everything. Okay. So I've got to think, Alan, can you raise your hands?
When you were doing the mudra.
Oh, I see. Oh, sorry. I couldn't click the button. That I was doing. Okay, so how is that sort of okay? Because when you're on share screen, you can't. Okay, so this is a bit tricky. Let me stand up. It's probably a bit okay. Let me just see. Okay, how is that? It's a little bit tricky, isn't it? So yeah, you've got so what's that? Because it's a bit reversed. So there's the thumb, and that's on the little fingers. The thumbs are on the little fingers, and then you've got the index finger and the middle fingers are intertwined, and these are the ring fingers. The ring fingers are up, sticking up. Now, what does it mean? What does it mean? This means, in terms of Buddhist cosmology, the ring finger sticking up stands for Mount Meru, which is said to be the center of the universe. And these 4, there are 4 intertwined fingers. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they resemble the 4 continents. So in terms of Buddhist cosmology, we have Mount Meru in the middle with 4 continents around Mount Meru, and this symbolizes the entire universe. Look, it's a little bit tricky, so I apologize for that, but maybe if I go from the side. Actually, maybe that's a bit better from the side. How does that look?
Or maybe first start with your fingers in your hands. Right.
I just
Do one at a time.
You can't. You got to do them all together, otherwise it falls apart. You sort of, I can't. It's a bit like putting a tie on. You can't. You can't do it. You can't do it slowly. You just have to be. It's sorry.
So
This is as good as it gets.
can you say right thumb, left baby
Okay,
finger?
that's right thumb to the left. Right thumb to the left little finger. Left
Okay.
thumb to the right middle finger. Then right index finger to the left middle finger. Left index finger to the right middle finger, and then this is the right and left ring fingers.
Ellen, I just found the YouTube.
It's really,
Is it okay if I share it?
yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
I can't.
Yeah, it's really hard. Yeah,
Yes.
good. You're doing it. So it doesn't matter, but you can just use the prayer gesture. There we are. She shared it there. That's very, very good. So we've got that ability. So that's pretty cool.
Thank you. I love mudras.
Yeah, good. Yeah, mudras are very good because we should, when we meditate, we have to meditate with the mind, and then we say mantras, and then we do mudras with the body. So we have, the body, speech, and mind all integrated into one process. So so I've stopped sharing now. That's good. Now, in terms of where we want to go for this, there are many ways we can do this. So I suppose the question I would ask you people is, why on earth would we want to talk about death and reincarnation? I mean, it's for most people, it's a totally grim and unpleasant thing to discuss. So, why do you think we would want to discuss it? I'm very interested in your feedback, especially since some people here have experienced grief recently, so it's obviously still raw. So, why do we want to start, spend our time and effort contemplating it? Hey, Shayla.
It's inevitable.
It's inevitable. Good. It's inevitable. Linda, you've got your hand up.
I want to understand it in a different way than I was raised. I was born and raised Catholic, and but there's just something calming to understand in Buddhism about this. And as it was just said, we're all going there. So how can we make it better and more easy to get to that place for ourselves? Yep. Or if it happened, as in my case, to my son, where is it go? How do we go about it?
Okay. How do we go about it? And Koda, you've got something to say?
I'm a caregiver, and I also do hospice work, so I help people pass comfortably. But I'm personally interested in karma and the whole 12 links. And yes, as somebody already said, it is inevitable. It's part of my work. Yep. And so while I'm still alive, I've been a Sufi for 20 years, and I've done Zazen for 30 years. So I never was interested in the Tibetan stuff until recently. And now I'm just like diving, I'm like chewing on, gorging on it. And it's makes me so happy. So, the death and the rebirth is very interesting from the Tibetan point of view. So I'm just very open and interested, curious.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, look, thank you very much. Well, I think the first comment we had was that it's inevitable. And so, yeah, that's right. It's a bit, I don't know, I'm trying to think something. It's a bit like if something's inevitable and we don't acknowledge it, then we're going to be in for a really big problem in the future. I suppose in some ways we could sort of talk about maybe climate change or something like that. If people don't believe in climate change or all that, and yet the evidence is saying we're going to have climate change, then there's going to be big problems the longer we deny it. And similarly with death, it is inevitable. And the other thing about it is that it's the time of when it comes is very unknown. It's unknown. It could be tomorrow. It could be next week, could be next month. Who knows? Next week when we have this class, there might be one less face on Zoom. We don't know, and we don't know. So it's inevitable, but the time of death is inevitable. And then the third thing is what actually helps us at the time of death. And we spend so much of our life accumulating or doing things. There might be like our relationships, our family, our friends, our really close people, and yet at the time of death, how beneficial are they? Well, we might look after our body impeccably, and by the time of death, our body will be left behind. Our wealth, our reputation all gets left behind. So what is it that really helps us at the time of death? So I suppose that's really important. Then another comment was made about how do we go there? How do we go to death? How do we proceed to death? And then, sorry, Margaret, you've got your hand up still. I'll get to you in a minute. And then, so how do we proceed to death? And that is, we can talk about that. In actuality, we have something really special in Buddhist philosophy is that we have a process of where we can experience the death process now, and so gain familiarity with it, so that when death comes, then we don't freak out, and also means that we can understand other people's experience of death. So I think Kodo said about caregiving and palliative care, and when we look after people, then if we have some understanding of the death process, then we can we'll be more relaxed for when it comes to our time, but also can help other people. And also, Kodo said something very interesting. It sort of makes her happy to Buddhism, especially makes her happy. Now, wouldn't it be great wouldn't it be weird? Wouldn't it be strange? But wouldn't it be fantastic if even the contemplation of death and impermanence and rebirth made us happy? And it will. I really believe it does. It's a great sense of letting go of a burden. And that's because at the moment, we all have a basic perception of ourselves, and that we are permanent, and things are permanent. We're sort of hardwired to have this. Now, that gets knocked out of us a bit as we get older, but still at a deep level, we have a perception that things are concrete and will stay the same. And that sense of concreteness and staying the same begins with ourselves. We say, like, I'm Alan. So I'm Alan. The Alan who woke up this morning is the same Alan who's speaking to you now, and that same Alan will go to bed tonight and wake up the next morning and do all the Alan things that Alan does. Similarly, it's the same Alan last year. There's a 2021 Alan. He did a whole lot of stuff. And then there was a 2020 Alan. He did a whole lot of stuff. And so, and when I really look in my mind, I think, he's the same guy. He's the same guy. But when I really investigate, and honestly investigate, then there's a lot of things that have happened. I used to have a little thing I started when I was quite young, because I started getting involved in Buddhism when I was quite young, about the age of 17. And I met many Theravadan teachers, and a lot of the first meditations in Theravadan or Hinayana schools are to do mindfulness of death and impermanence, because the Buddha taught the Four Noble Truths, and the first noble truth is the truth of suffering. The truth of suffering has four aspects to it, and the first of those aspects is that things are impermanent. So everything we experience in this worldly existence has the nature of suffering, and one of the reasons for that is that they're impermanent. So if we meditate on impermanence, then we're just realizing like the nature of existence. So a little thing I used to have is I'd get yeah, you you accumulate little photos of yourself over the years, like driver's licenses, passports, student identity cards. So I used to collect them. I cut out the little photos and put them down, and I'd have them just arranged in front of me. And I'd say, oh, there's Alan, and there's Alan when he's 16, and big bushy guy with long hair. And there's Alan when he's 20. He had a beard then and long hair, and I was at university. And there's Alan when he's 30, and he's got shorter hair now, and he's put on a little bit of weight maybe, and looks more serious because he's got a career and everything. And then there's an Alan when his passport photo with this, and on and on. And then when I put those together, and I mean, it's fairly confronting, but you think, oh my God, look what's happened. Look what's happened to that person. And that's just the face. That's just, you know, the head and shoulders. Imagine what's happened to everything below the shoulders. That's terrifying. But but for me, that's Alan, that 16-year-old guy who was at high school, and that student ID photo. That's Alan. That's Alan. And here I am. I'm a 66-year-old man, grey hair. My body aches. I have to wear glasses, can't see or can't hear properly, can't move properly, can't even digest food properly. I mean, all that sort of stuff compared to that 16-year-old. Yet I say I'm the same sort of person. I'm the same. Alan is the same. And that's okay. That's okay. But some of the repercussions to that, if that was the end of it, that would be okay. But where does it cause problems? Well, for a start, it causes problems if we really hold on. I mean, if I want to be that 16-year-old man or boy now, when I'm 66, then there's a big problem, because it's to behave or think like that's impossible, and it'll create catastrophes probably, and very great disappointments. But also, we believe that in other people as well. So we engage with other people. We have relationships. We're not isolated, so we have to engage with others. So what is the nature of our relationships and expectations of others? And similarly, with the relationships and expectations we have with others, we believe they're sort of permanent too. Okay, we believe it. Okay. Now, if we want to go back through the photo album again, we can sort of, yeah, we've probably got pictures of all our boyfriends or girlfriends or whatever in photo albums. We could probably cut those out and line them up. That'd be another confronting sort of thing to do. That'd be a lot of fun. So, and then we could say, well, in that relationship I had with that person, you know, they were there and I was there with little photos. And then, you know, who were those people? Who were those people? Who was I at that stage in my life? Who were they? And then what were my expectations of that person? How realistic were they? And what happened to that relationship? So as we go through life, we have lots of different, you know, we relate to people. People come into our lives, they go. We want to cling on to that. We really do, especially if it's really nice, we want to cling on to it. If it's not really nice, we probably want to get rid of it. But even then, there are factors that, even when it's not really nice, sometimes people have to cling because of desperation or other karmic issues that they cling. So certainly when it's nice, we want to cling. But then what is that inevitable situation? It's like when the more you cling, then the more it becomes inevitable that there'll be separation. It's almost that. So we now have the concept of I am permanent, Alan's permanent. And then we have the concept of the other, that they're permanent, and that our relationship together is permanent. And then we can just try to evaluate what's happened as a result of that. Okay, so we find Mr. Right or Mrs. Right or Ms. Right, and we get married or have a steady relationship or whatever, make that commitment, and then that's probably got a 50-50 chance of working out long term. And then there's separation, divorce, catastrophe, all that sort of stuff, all the suffering. But at the beginning, there was no hesitation. There was no hesitation because we both thought, both people in that decision making to bond, believe that you are mine, I am yours, I know who you are, I am me, and our relationship is thus, and that will continue on forever. And we'll live happily ever after. But as the Buddha said, all phenomena that are existing, all or compounded phenomena or functioning phenomena that exists in our type of worldly existence, they change, and that change is unpredictable. It's unpredictable. So people do change. From my side, I might think I haven't changed, but they have changed. And their relationship changes because of all sorts of factors over which we have no control. So that's one aspect of that first noble truth of suffering. That's why the Buddha taught it in this way, because it's just so important. So as part of this discussion about death and rebirth, we have to understand impermanence. And we also have to understand that we have deeply in our heart a concept that we are permanent, that we are unchanging. However illogical and however irrational that is, we've got it. Okay, now I would like to stop because I get sick of the sound of my own voice, and I would love for people to make some comments, please. Just unmute yourself and talk, or you can raise your hand and talk, it doesn't matter. Oh, Coda, thank you. Unmute yourself, please. Unmute. Can't hear you. Unmute.
Oh, I thought
Hello. Got it. Well done.
a couple months ago, I read the Dalai Lama's The Wheel of Life about the 12 links. And so ignorance, I forget the other word for it, the Tibetan word, that really gets us, that we have wrong knowing about the reality of the universe. And I come about it with a little bit of a chemistry and a biology background. And so I think of everything as the atoms and the space between the atoms and the attractions between everything. So I don't have an issue with the God somewhere, even though I was raised Catholic for a while. I never really got the ignorance of our egos and our belief that I exist. And, I meditate and I chop off an arm and I say, am I still here? I take out a kidney and donate it. Am I still in the body? And, you go into the meditation and you take out the parts and it's like, where is the I? Is there an I? And, and then how did we get to this, on this wrong knowing? Like, what happened here? So it's just fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So that's where I'm coming from.
Okay, so I think you've touched on something really, really important. I mean, the 12 links, we could talk about that, and that is amazing. The 12 links are amazing. And then we have the 12 links, just 12 links start with ignorance or marigpa, which is that deep, wrong conception of reality. So we have lots of different wrong conceptions of reality. And this is what Buddhism, you've really touched on something really profound. What is Buddhism about? It is about uncovering those wrong perceptions, wrong attitudes, wrong opinions we have of reality, wrong appearances we have of reality, and then getting rid of those wrong attitudes, wrong appearances, wrong opinions, wrong thought, and just having correct perception, correct views. So that's it. That's really, really good. Thank you. Now, Margaret, you've got something you want to say?
I just wanted to say that I want to learn more because I want to prepare myself for my next rebirth. And I know there are things that you can do, such as have a peaceful death. And that may mean asking people to leave the room.
Sure.
Those kinds of things. And if you could have any mantras playing in the background, or if you're, lucky enough, like to be in a hospice situation. And recently my brother passed, and it was an accident, and he fell on his head, and there was severe damage, and he died within a couple of hours. And my thought on that was that maybe that will really interfere with his rebirth, and I, would like some clarification on that. And also with my cat, I was told by a couple of people, Venerable Robina and who else? Can't think of his name. But he has a lot to do with wisdom publications, or Yamayeski's wisdom. And he told me, do not, have your cat euthanized. And he gave the reason. So, these are some strong or major points for me. And I just wanted to pass that on. Thank you.
Sure, no worries. Look, to prepare for death and is what we're about here. This is all about preparing for death. Okay, that's what this is about. Well, first of all, we have to change our basic attitude of believing in permanence. We have to stop believing in permanence. That's the first thing. The second thing is to talk about death openly, so that we have less fear about it, and then we can actually do practices and, as you said, prayers or mantras that can help us prepare for death. And also we can start talking about the people around us. So I think, Kodo, you mentioned you're doing some palliative care. Well, we have to modify it for individual people. We don't want to interject our Buddhist views on somebody at a very vulnerable time in their life, for example, when they're dying. So we have to modify it. So if they're very devoutly Catholic, then say Hail Marys when they're dying. Have a picture of Jesus, have a picture of a cross. Absolutely do that. If they're sort of a devout atheists and don't believe in anything, then just maybe talk to them about the wonderful things they've achieved in their life, so that they have some peace rather than the regrets or losses they've had in their life. Say, well, this is what things you've achieved in life. Be positive about your life. If they're a Buddhist, fine. We can talk about the Buddhist process and how to facilitate that. In terms of euthanasia, that's really complex, isn't it? If this life was the end and there was nothing, then euthanasia makes a lot of sense. I'm suffering, get rid of it, and then there's nothing to worry about. But we do believe that there's reincarnation. We believe that at death you're purifying karma. The other things would obviously the euthanizing chemicals. It's a very rapid migration of the consciousness, a bit akin to the way you said your brother died very quickly. Well, it's probably, if we euthanize somebody, then I'm sure you've probably all had general anesthetics where, they put the needle in your hand and you're talking to them, counting back from 10, 9, 8, and then the next thing you know, you're waking up in recovery and they're giving you a glass of orange juice or something. So there's no time. There's no time. So that's a very, very quick process. So with euthanasia, it's something. It's contentious, isn't it? It's contentious. In my country, we're currently having debates in the various state-based legislation about legislating for the allowing euthanasia, and it looks like virtually all the states in my country of Australia will have euthanasia type legislation. It'll be slightly different in each state, but they will have that in each state probably in the next year or two. And so that just seems to be the way society's going. But we as Buddhists have to make, or we as Buddhists, or Buddhist people interested in spiritual philosophy, we have to make up our own decisions on it. So if the ways we can help people is to reduce fear, to give them security, don't fear death because, and what are the reasons for it? And one of the reasons is this is just a migration to your next life. Then we give them security by saying, oh, I'll look after you. So your cat probably felt really secure in the sense that mummy's there and won't abandon it, and mummy's going to look up. So that even a cat would feel a sense of security, and similarly a human being. And then the other things we can do is make at the death time, in terms of Buddhist philosophy, we don't, our understanding of the death process is, and you mentioned the 12 links, that there's a karma that ripens at death time, and that's called, when we go craving, grasping, existence, the 8th, 9th, and 10th links on the 12 links, and that existence is a karma, and that is a type of karma that is goes to the next life, that determines our next life. So what we have to do is make sure that craving and grasping, which is a type of attachment, is not enhanced, or not enhanced in a bad way. So that's why they say it's good if there's not too much noise around, not too many crying and wailing people who would maybe increase the craving and grasping. Because when a person wants to leave this life, we want them to leave free. We want them to leave free. So there's a whole lot of general practical advice about that too. I mean, for example, if we have the opportunity when we're getting close to death, we should start to get rid of stuff. And by stuff, I don't mean just physical things, but figuratively get rid of stuff. Okay, you get rid of physical things, do a will and make it very clear so that when you die, then none of the grasping to your possessions will arise at the time of death. So first of all, make a will. Secondly, get rid of stuff. Yeah, give things away. Start giving things away. Things you don't need, just give them away. Just give them away and enjoy. Because if you give it, the good thing about giving it away before you die is you accumulate the positive karma of generosity in this life, in this living being. If you give it away after you die, it's not, you don't really accumulate the karma of giving, because you've passed to another life, and this Alan is gone. So if I did write a will and give it to other people, then it's good. I mean, it's all beneficial, but it's not so much Alan accumulating the positive karma. I get some karma because I've got the intention, and there's the intention to give, and I've identified what I'm going to give and identified whom I'm going to give, but the action is not completed. So there are different, to make a karmic action complete, we have to identify, like for example, in giving, what we're going to give, to whom we're going to give it, and we have to have a motivation, like to give, the motivation to give, and then we have to complete the action. So if we do a will, we're getting all three of the first bits right, but we're not actually completing the action in this life, which is a little bit why, for example, when people commit suicide, they're not accumulating the karma of killing, the complete karma of killing. So someone who suicides, in your life, you've probably known people, they're not actually accumulating the karma of killing, because although they've got the intention to kill themselves, because they've got the means to do it, and the motivation, and they've identified what they're going to kill, they die, well, there's a technical point in it, they die before the action's complete. So therefore, that karma of killing, it's not a karma of killing on their continuum. So that's an interesting side issue. That gives people some relief when talking about suicide, especially if it's someone close to us, that they haven't actually accumulated the entire karma of killing. It's negative and it's sad and it's tragic, but it's not as bad as if they killed somebody else, for example. So there's some of the things people brought up. So we're going to cover, if we have time, we can cover all these things. The process of dying, how to prepare for death. But it starts with talking about impermanence. And then we can talk, and I think, Kodo, you mentioned you've got a background in biology or physical sciences or something. Now, I think that's really valuable because there are different sorts of impermanence. So we've got gross impermanence and subtle impermanence. Now, maybe people can give me some feedback here. Have people heard of these concepts, gross and subtle impermanence, and what it means? Could maybe someone explain it to me? I'm listening. Okay, well, let's talk about a few things. Gross impermanence. Okay. Okay, birth, sickness, aging, and death. Birth, sickness, aging, and death. They're gross impermanence. Birth is obvious. It's in time of incredible change. We start with, the sperm and egg fertilizing, and then there's the chromosomes exchange, and then there's a fertilized ovum that goes into 2, that goes into 4, that goes into 8, 16, 32, 64, till finally we have, the fetus developing, and then there's a baby comes out, the baby turns into a toddler, that toddler turns into a child, that child turns into a teenager turns into a young adult, the young adult turns into a middle-aged adult, the middle-aged adult turns into an old adult, the old adult turns into somebody who gets sick and then dies. So birth, sickness, aging, and death. They're 4 of the great sufferings that we have to endure. So, but they're gross. They're gross because they're so obvious. Okay, another one is, my glass of water here. Okay, if I drop it, what happens? If I drop it on a concrete floor, what will happen to that? It will smash. So that's gross impermanence. It's obvious. It's really, really obvious. So that's gross impermanence. However, even if we looked at the physical structure of that, I don't know, if I was a physicist or somebody, I believe the atoms, the electrons, the protons, the neutrons, whatever in there, they're all changing, even though it's such a strong structure. I believe they're all changing because the electrons are moving around it. So even something as strong as that is changing, but we can't perceive it. But in terms of us, for example, okay, let's talk about subtle impermanence in us. Okay, so 54 minutes ago, we started this. So 54 minutes, there's been 54 minutes. Each of those minutes has had 60 seconds. Each of those seconds has had milliseconds. So if we said we've got 54 multiplied by 60 multiplied by 1,000, that to me is a lot of milliseconds. So if we took it each millisecond, and what's happened in each of those or what's happened in each of those seconds, what's happened in each of those minutes, and we can see it's a continuum. You came in, maybe you'd never met the people in the room. I'd certainly never met you. So from my experience, I came in not knowing what was going to happen. I met Shayla, and then my mind changed. My mind changed from meeting Shayla. Then I met Erin B, my mind changed again. Then I met Margaret, then I met Annie, then I met Linda, Kodo, and Rosemary, and everybody. So each of those interactions changed me. Every word I say changed me. So the word that came out of my mouth then was preempted by a moment of consciousness. And that moment of consciousness had a previous moment of consciousness. And that previous moment of consciousness had another. And then this moment of consciousness that I have now, so the word I'm saying now, that word now, becomes the preemptor for the next word, which was becomes. So my speech is changing continuously. My mind is changing continuously. And this is subtle, very, very subtle. It's momentary. Now, what about my body? So what about the body? Well, what's happening with the body? Well, we have gross impermanence, birth, aging, sickness, and death, and we can see that. But at a momentary level, my body's changing. For example, we have the blood. We have the blood pumping around. We know the heart pumps at 70 beats per minute. Okay, so every time it moves, the blood pulses around. The neurons in my brain are working, and they're changing, and they're probably forming new pathways and memories of people in my brain now. So you're changing me. You're changing me. This is changing me. My digestive system's changing. And who knows, maybe I've got some cancer cells that are developing and just dividing slowly in my pancreas or my liver or my bowel or something. And I'm totally unaware of that. Or my body's healing. I think your skin sheds, doesn't it? Every day we're losing skin. So you're looking at my hand. Okay, if I hold that up again, well, it's on Zoom. You say, okay, it won't look, but if I hold that up next week, you'll be looking at different cells. Because all those cells today, and you'll say it's the same hand, but they know you're looking at the cells on the surface. They've all changed. So in a week, I presume all those cells that are there would have gone. So I think that's the way it works. And the great Buddhist meditators can perceive directly subtle impermanence. We can't. We can't even perceive gross impermanence. I believe I'm the same Alan who was that 16-year-old in the student ID card. I believe I'm that. But the great meditators can understand subtle impermanence and understand momentary change, and actually directly experience it by the power of their meditation. So we can only infer from it. But scientists can understand it. I think there must be physicists and that who can measure. I mean, I think that's what they do. I think a lot of physicists are trying to measure the momentary change that occurs at atomic levels and then cellular levels in the body and living tissue, etc. So organic and non-organic. So that's my understanding of gross impermanence and subtle impermanence. Now, we have this view of I. I would like, with your permission, to just do a little meditation now, because this is not about just giving information. This is about you transforming your mind and your attitude. I want something for you to think about and a little exercise to do in between sessions, So I've made the supposition, I've asserted that Alan is the same Alan, and he's continued. Okay, I would like to do a little brief meditation now on today, because you're all here in the evening. No, I'm here in the morning, but you've had a longer day than me. But still, in that day, we've done a whole lot of stuff. Okay, for a start, we got out of bed. Or maybe Kodo, she's got her van. She's got a bed in her van, I hope, yeah. And then, so we've been got out of bed at a certain time. Who were we at that moment? We said, oh, Alan is getting out of bed, or Linda's getting out of bed, Annie's getting out of bed, Rosemary's getting out of bed. Who is that Rose? Who was that Rosemary then? What were you thinking? What were your expectations? What were you eating, smelling, tasting, touching? And then what did you do after that? Well, you probably got dressed. You probably went to the toilet. You probably spoke to somebody. You probably read the news or accessed an iPhone or did something or fed the dog, fed the cat, do whatever. And then you did the activities of life, whatever. And now you're here. At some stage, you made a decision to turn on your computer and engage in this. And good. I'm really glad you did. But then what's happened to you since you've been here? So now it's been 61 minutes of us being together. What's happened in that period? Are you the same person with the same attitudes and the same feelings 61 minutes ago? Are you? Or what's happened? Then we finish, we can speculate, okay, after this, we've got another maybe hour of this, then we finish, what do you do? Well, it's getting evening in your part of the world. Have some dinner, have a cup of tea or coffee or whatever you do, speak to somebody, go to bed, sleep. So who's that person going to sleep? And label them, say, okay, Linda got out of bed. Linda went to the toilet. Linda had something to drink. Linda washed her face. Linda spoke to somebody. Linda did this, Linda did that. Annie got out of bed. Then she did this, then she went to work, then she cleaned up, then she prepared food, then she ate this. Then Annie got upset. There was something happened to Annie today. Everything, there's bound to be something that upset us in the day. This upset Annie today. How did she deal with it? How did I deal? And I'm Annie. I'm Annie. I did this. This happened to me. How did I deal with it? What happened to my mind? How did I deal with it? And then how did I move on? And now I started this class 62 minutes ago now. What's happened to me since then? Am I happy? Am I sad? Am I thoughtful? Am I thinking, God, I hope this is over soon because I've got things I have to do. It's boring, or I'm excited. And then tonight. So this is an exercise on identifying the Annie, identifying the Linda, identifying the Kodo, identifying the Alan as we go through life. And it's a really good exercise. And we mentioned about the 12 links in ignorance, how this ignorance of the 12 links is actually in every moment of our perception, every moment of mental thought. So that ignorance follows us, and that ignorance has partly associated with it the ignorance of that Alan, in my case Alan, I'm permanent and I exist from my own side without depending upon anything else. So they're the two qualities, that I'm permanent and I exist from my own side without depending upon anything else. The combination of those two is the view of inherent existence. I believe that I exist inherently. I believe that I exist independently. I believe that I exist from my own nature. And that is a fundamental ignorance. That is the ignorance that traps us in samsara. So this meditation that we're going to do in a minute, from when you got up in the morning to tonight, and just cruise through it quite quickly. Who am I at each of these moments in time? When I got up, when I ate, when I washed, when I interacted with people, when I did this, when I did that, when I turned on the Zoom, when I answered some questions, when I spoke, when I'm listening, then when I finish, when I go to bed, and then finally when I go to sleep. Find that I, find that person. So now, with your permission, this will just be a few minutes of meditation where I want you to say to yourself, go through the day. I woke up. I am this. Alan woke up. Linda woke up. Rosemary woke up. And then go through until tonight. And then we'll find that I, find that person. Okay, thank you very much. So these meditations, that they're really simple, and we can do them. And especially a meditation like this is really important to do when something maybe traumatic or upsetting happens in life. So if we're angry, someone's angry at us, at that stage, say, where is this Alan who's angry? Where is this Alan who's really disappointed? Where is this Alan who's jealous, for example? Where is this Alan who's really proud of himself? Or where is this Alan who's really wanting or needing, desirous? So it's really good. Where is that? Where is that I? Now, we do have a little bit of a syllabus. So I'll just read. There was an outline which Thupten Norberling sort of mentioned to me. So I'll just read what they've said here. Some of the topics we should cover, which I think we have covered. What Buddhism says about death. Okay, death is a natural, inevitable part of life, and that was some of the comments you people made initially. It's a natural, inevitable part of life. So for that reason, we shouldn't be scared about it. So what is death? Death is when the mind separates from the body. After that, the mind takes another rebirth. So that's really interesting. We tend to think about Buddhism as being like a dualistic philosophy. There's a mind and there's a body. Now, in actually Buddhism, there's also what we call the psychophysical aggregates, which are the winds, channels, and drops, which are the psychophysical aggregates. So yes, there's a physical coarse body. Yes, there's the very subtle mind, and then sort of binding them and allowing them to interact are the psychophysical aggregates, which are the winds, channels, drops, and those energies, which have aspects of, I suppose, the mind and physical and mind, both of them. But when the death occurs, when the body and the mind separate, and then the mind takes another rebirth. Now, we can talk about the reasons how we can prove reincarnation, how we can prove it. So we could talk about that. Now, the next bit of the guideline here, it is very important to accept and be aware of death. There are two reasons for this. By realizing that life is transitory, we will be more careful about our actions. So that's really good. By realizing that life is impermanent or transitory, we will be more careful about our actions. Okay. And that doesn't mean that I'm just going to be more careful crossing the road so I don't get hit by a car. It means, what am I doing with my life in general? Okay. Do I need to watch another Netflix series, or should I be reading? You know, Lama Tsongkhapa's Stages of a Path. I mean, okay. I love Foxtel, I'm afraid I'm addicted to Foxtel. I'm sorry, but still, I should read this, and I have read it. I do read it. So, but yeah, the great stages of the path. Okay, so we, in that sense, be more careful about our actions. Yes, don't go skydiving with a malfunctioning parachute. So be careful. Be careful crossing the road. Be careful driving your car. Be careful what you eat and drink, because all those things can affect life and death, etc. But when we talk about the first point there, by realizing that life is transitory, we'll be more careful about our actions. It means that we'll do actions that are more meaningful in the long term. And now, then the second thing is, in the guideline here, we will realize how important it is to be prepared for death, and will put energy into doing what will enable us to be prepared. Okay, that's really important. We will realize how important it is to be prepared for death, and will put energy into doing what will enable us to be prepared. So people have mentioned this. I think Margaret in particular mentioned this, that what can we do to prepare ourselves for death, and what can and what can we do for others to help them to prepare for death, our loved ones, humans, animals, friends, or whatever. And in that sense, what can we do about society? Like society doesn't talk about death. Just by merely talking about the death, making it obvious, making it safe, a safe place is actually beneficial for society too. So give people a safe space to talk about death. And we'll go about some of the ways we can prepare. Okay, now then the next point on the guideline is fear of death occurs because of clinging to a permanent self or an I, which is an illusion. So fear of death occurs for many reasons. I mean, fear of death occurs for many reasons. So, I mean, fear of death occurs because we're going to lose. We're going to lose so much. We're going to lose our wealth. Well, we're going to lose our possessions, our wealth, anything we've accumulated. We're going to lose our friends, our family, loved ones, all those relationships. We're going to lose reputation. Reputation is a big one. We'll lose that. We'll lose our body that we've treasured so much. So all those things we're going to lose. So there's a lot to be lost. So that physical things we can see. But when they're talking here that the fear of death occurs because of clinging to a permanent self, an I or an I, which is an illusion, what they're saying is, getting back to that little meditation we just did, is that I, that person, Alan, is suddenly going to be gone. Alan will go. I mean, Alan is just the label that my mum and dad put on that baby that popped out of the womb. They didn't even know that at that stage, they didn't know the gender. They didn't know whether I was male or female. So they probably had a list of male names and a list of female names there. And then said, oh, he's popped out. The nurse says, or the midwife says, oh, it's a boy. And mum says, oh, great, how wonderful. I'm glad that's over. And then says, oh, what do we name him now? Let's name him Alan. And that Alan label stuck from then, from in the delivery suite, the labour ward, when mum's breastfeeding me for the first time. She said, hello, Alan. And I look at her and say, and so I have the label mum and she has the label Alan. And then I'm stuck with that label for the rest of my life. Unless I change my label, I can change my label, but it doesn't matter. Then there's just another label. That label, and at a more subtle level, there's the label Alan, which is just merely that label put onto this body, this physical form and the mind that is me, that is Alan. But at a more subtle level, Alan is just really this, it's just merely that Alan, what is Alan? Alan is just merely a label. Alan is just merely, really at a most subtle level, Alan's merely a label, because there is nothing else apart from of Alan, apart from the label and this changing continuum of physical and mental phenomena. And we label that changing continuum like a river flowing. That's what I am. And we label that. So I'm sure all of you have got rivers around you and things like that. Seems like there's a lot of rivers in America. And we look at that river and we say, this is the big river. That's good. I'm sure you've got a big river somewhere. Okay, this is the big river. And we say, and we look away and we come back in 5 minutes and say, oh, it's still the big river. But when we're looking at all that water's gone, now there's more water and there's more debris, there are different fish, there's different mud in it, there's different, but we still say it's the big river. But everything's changed in it in that 5 minutes. Well, similarly, Alan here, but it's still valid to call it the big river because that's what it is on the map and everyone knows it's the big river. And I am Alan, and I can be labeled upon this river, this continuum of change. It's quite valid to do that. You can call me Alan because Alan is this label on the continuum of change. And Alan is going through this life, through death. But at death, if I'm clinging to this Alan and thinking Alan is something concrete, Alan is something independent, and Alan is something impermanent, and Alan is actually the most really important possession and thing I own, and at death, I am going to lose that. That Alan is going to be gone. Then fear and panic arises. Fear and panic. I am going to be non-existent. I am going to be non-existent. So that fear of, that is a real deep fear of death. Okay, there's a fear of loss of wealth, reputation, family, friends, your body, etc., all the things, those gross things. But then at a deeper level, there's the fear of loss of I, the fear of loss of me. I am going to be lost. I'm going to be lost forever, and be forever. Alan will never exist after this death. So the fear of death occurs because of clinging to a permanent self or I, which is an illusion. Now, because that self or I is an illusion, there's nothing to cling to. There's nothing really to cling to. There's nothing, so therefore there's nothing to be afraid of. At death, we can let go. We can let go. And as we go through the meditation on the death process, we'll see that we let go of different aspects of our physical form and our mental functioning in a stepwise fashion, and we gradually let go of things. For example, in the death process, the first sense faculty we lose is our eyesight. So we can't see. So we say, there, my sense faculty of vision has gone. I let go of that. And then the physical form, what we call the aggregate of form, then becomes non-operational. Then the next sense faculty we lose in the death process is the hearing sense consciousness, the auditory consciousness. And we lose that. We say, now I'm losing that as we go through. And then the what we call the element of water starts to change. We have different elements. In Tibetan Buddhist philosophy or physiology, they talk about the four main elements: earth, water, fire, and wind. And they're the physical constituents of our body and of all phenomena, really. And as we go through the process of dying, they gradually stop functioning. So earth goes first, then water, then fire, and then wind. And then we come to the very subtle consciousnesses, and there's still a sense of I clinging at that stage, even though the visual sense consciousness is gone, even though the auditory consciousness is gone, even though the olfactory consciousness and the taste or gustatory consciousness is gone, and the tactile feeling consciousness is gone. There's still a subtle sense of I. And at that stage, as we go through the subtle, very subtle, what they call the three visions that are before death, which is the white appearance, red increase, and black near attainment. And then the very, very, very subtle moments of consciousness until finally we get to death itself, which is the clear light of death. The clear light of death is our opportunity to meditate on emptiness and to understand the ultimate nature of reality. So that's why this meditation is so useful. It not only gets rid of the fear of death, but it actually provides us with a stepwise fashion where we get rid of the coarse consciousnesses and the coarse physical constituents. We go through subtler and subtler aspects of mind until we get to the clear light of death, which is analogous to the understanding of emptiness, and also analogous to and similar to the nature of the Buddha's mind, So we can access some qualities of a Buddha's mind by going through this process of the death meditation. So that's really wonderful. I mean, it's a great deal. It's a really good deal. Okay, and then so the final point that they're making here is that it is possible to become free of death and rebirth. Okay. It says here, I didn't write this, but I'm just going from what came from Noble Ling, but it is possible to become free of death and rebirth. Now, I'm not sure exactly what they mean by that, but let's talk about the 12. Kodo spoke about the 12 links of interdependent origination. Now, maybe you can Google that or have a look at the 12. It's just called the 12 links, and it's a circle, and it's how we enter into existence, how we abide, and then how we take rebirth. And it's endless because each step, each link feeds into the next link, and we go through this endlessly. We've been doing it endlessly. So the 12 links of interdependent origination. You just do it on Google. And it's very beautiful. It's a very beautiful way of looking at the continuous way we move and way we're trapped in death and rebirth, because death is the 11th link. Oh, beautiful. Hey, look at that. Oh, you're so clever. Thank you very much. Can everyone see that? Great. Okay, now, if we start from the top, on my top right, there's the Buddha, and he's pointing with his right hand out. That's a Buddha. And on the left is a moon, which is enlightenment. So the Buddha's pointing to enlightenment. Okay, now the next level down is this really scary creature, and he's got fangs, and he's holding the wheel of life, he or she. That's the Lord of Death. That means death. Death is embracing the whole of existence. We're bound by death. Whatever. I mean, the Buddha did die. The previous Dalai Lama did die in a sense, but they didn't die the way we're going to die. Now, the next circle in is really cool. Okay, now that's got 12 aspects to it. And then the first one is, it's a man with a walking stick and he's blind. The top right at, let's go, 12 o'clock. Say at 12:15 is a man. Maybe that's 1 o'clock, isn't it? Say that's 1 o'clock, 1 p.m. or 1 o'clock. There's a man with a staff. He's a blind man. That's ignorance. So that's that marikpa, ignorance. Then the next one is a potter making something, and this is ignorance, karmic formation. This is karma. We create karma. Because of ignorance, we create karma. Now, the next one is a monkey in a tree, and that monkey is our consciousness, the mind. And it's a monkey because it's totally out of control. Our monkey is totally our monkey mind is totally out of control. Okay, the next one is at 4 o'clock. That's a boat with people in it. So it's like it's name and form. It's name and form. So name is the body, form is the name is the consciousness, form is the body. So we have like the boat, and the participants in it are like the body with the mind in the body. So that's it. Okay. Now this one here, this the house. That's the 6 sense consciousnesses. So now we're going through. So by ignorance, we've created karma that gets implanted on consciousness. Then we take a rebirth, which is the man paddling the boat, which is name and form. And then we have the 6 sense consciousnesses develop, which is like a room with all these windows. Because basically the windows in a house or a room allow us to see different things, so experience different things. So that's like the sense consciousness. Okay, now at 6 o'clock we have a man and a woman copulating. So that's contact. So this is the Buddhist perception. First of all, we need the name and form, the consciousness and the form. Then we have the consciousnesses and the powers, the sense powers, and then we contact things. So we contact, and that's a man and woman copulating. The next one at 7 o'clock is a man with an arrow in his eye. That's feeling, because whenever there's contact of sense consciousness and object, we generate feelings, and those feelings are either pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. So that man with the arrow in his eyes having a pretty unpleasant feeling. Now, then we have here, this is a man who's enjoying some chang, it looks like, some beer, Tibetan beer or something like that. And so he's got craving. It's a type of attachment. He's got food and he's got drink and he's got craving. So this is attachment as the next rebirth ripens. And then we have grasping, which is the monkey climbing up the tree. And that's where that craving, that attachment becomes stronger, because it is now going to ripen the seed for our next rebirth. And that seed for the next rebirth is the man there. He looks like he's running. He's a running man at about 9 o'clock there. And that person is karma, the throwing karma for our next rebirth. And that gets ripened by craving and grasping. So craving, grasping, ripen the karma. And that karma of existence, we call it, is then going to ripen into the next one. So if we go to like 10 o'clock up there, there's a woman giving birth under a tree. And so that's rebirth. So that's rebirth. So that's pushed by existence. Rebirth will inevitably occur because the karma of existence has been fully ripened by craving and grasping, fully ripened by craving and grasping. And then what we have here, we have somebody carrying a corpse on their back, having a corpse. So that's aging and death. Now, if you're lucky, now what do we did? What is the definition of aging? Aging is the second moment of after rebirth. So, and because death can occur at any moment after rebirth. So there's rebirth. Now we talk about rebirth as, you know, it's a picture of a woman giving birth, but Buddhists tend to think of rebirth occurring when at earlier than that, earlier than that, during the pregnancy process and that. But at any moment after rebirth, there's death. So there's rebirth is a moment, and then aging and death. Aging occurs after that, and then there's death. So there's rebirth. The second moment after rebirth is aging, because we're progressing to death. We're progressing. So that last one is the man carrying the corpse, and that's rebirth. That's aging and death, and then it goes around the cycle again. We go to them. Ignorance creates karma, which then implants it on consciousness. The third one. Consciousness then gives a rise in another rebirth of name and form with the body and mind. The sixth sense consciousnesses, the house develops. Then there's contact, the man and woman copulating. Then feeling arises. Then craving and grasping arise. And then that craving and grasping at 7 and 8, and at 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock. And then there's existence, which is the running man, and then there's rebirth, the woman giving rebirth, and then there's aging and death again. And this cycle perpetuates all the time. It just continuously perpetuates. Every life we have goes through this cycle. Now, we can break that. Where can we break it? Well, we can't stop the six sense organs. I mean, they can't. You can't stop them. We can't stop contact and feeling, because that's a natural thing that occurs with any moment of consciousness. Where we can stop it is at ignorance, Now, some schools of thought, especially the Theravadan schools of thought, say craving and grasping can be overcome, and we can break the 12 links of craving and grasping by getting rid of attachment. Yes, but to get rid of attachment, we need to get rid of ignorance, that fundamental ignorance which misconstrues reality. So where do we cut it? We cut it on the first link. So in that last thing that's in my summary here, it is possible to become free of death and rebirth. And we become free of death and rebirth by cutting through the ignorance. And then, but then, why does the Dalai Lama reincarnate? Why did Lama Zopa Rinpoche reincarnate? Why did all these great living beings reincarnate? Because of the force of their compassion, they take rebirth, but not by the force of ignorance. So they take rebirth by the force of compassion and wisdom, whereas we take rebirth by the power of craving, grasping, and ignorance. Completely different. So completely different existence. Okay, so 12:31. Oh no, in my time it's 12. So we're at 90 minutes now. I mustn't bore you, and I've probably already bored you, and I apologize deeply for that. So we can have some questions, discussions. We can break out into breakout rooms if you want, or do whatever you feel. Shayla, what would you suggest we do now? Because we've been pretty good. 90 minutes is a good stint.
I can help with either way. We can do breakout rooms, or we can talk together. So it's entirely
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe we're getting used to each other, so we'll just talk together this time, and then maybe we can focus a bit. So, please, the floor is yours, and I'd love to hear what's been going through your mind.
so much. Sorry.
Well, that's all right. That's a
Erin has her hand raised.
Erin, and then yep, cool. So Erin B, I think, came up first. So yeah, please, Erin.
Great. So I was just recognizing that when we did the little meditation before, the who is the Aaron or where is the Aaron, I actually ended up maybe a little bit off to the side because I was thinking more about I was more of this impermanent changing. Is that still beneficial to do, or should I try to remodify it and go more for what you were talking about?
I think you can do whatever you want, whatever works for you. Okay. The one thing we want to avoid is you falling into nihilism. So we have two extreme views: the view of eternalism and the view of nihilism. And then we have the middle way view, which is our view, the Madhyamika view, or the Buddha's view. The Buddha avoided eternalism, nihilism, or the extremes of those, and developed the middle way view. So we have the middle way view. So at the moment we have we have an extreme view of eternalism, that I believe I'm concrete, I'm self-existent, I'm not changing, and I'm the same person I was yesterday, day before, month before, years before, etc. And you are too. And our relationship is the same. And the things I own are the same. They're not changing. Everything's going to be concrete and predictable and knowable and reliable. Nothing's ever going to let me down. Nobody's ever going to surprise me because they're not going to change. And what happens if we come with that attitude? We are going to get so hurt, aren't we? We're just going to get so hurt. We're going to be clobbered. Life is going to be so damaging, so tortuous. But I think some people do think like that. And then we get it knocked out of ourselves as time. But anyway, so there's that. The other view is the view of nihilism, which is, oh my God, there is no Aaron. I can't find any Aaron. I don't exist. There is no Aaron. And that is just as dangerous. That's awful, because then suddenly it makes I don't exist. Therefore, actions don't exist. Therefore, people don't exist. Therefore, my purpose in life doesn't exist. What I believe in doesn't exist. Meaning doesn't exist. Laws doesn't exist. Truth doesn't exist. The path to enlightenment doesn't exist. The Buddha doesn't exist. The teacher doesn't exist. The guru doesn't exist. So that's really, really dangerous. That's a really, really dangerous. So we have to come to a middle path. And that middle path is that Aaron, although Aaron is pretty concrete at the moment, and we can recognize that, then we shift it a little bit. Aaron is impermanent. She's changing and is due to causes and conditions. But she still exists because Aaron still functions. I mean, she just spoke to me. I mean, if you didn't exist, I wouldn't have been able, we wouldn't have been able to communicate. So you spoke to me. You think, you eat, you dress, you do activities. So Aaron is a functioning thing. And on top of that, there's a label, Aaron, that somebody, probably your parents, labeled you with, and you've gone through your whole life answering to that label. That label, Aaron, on that continuum of experience, on that functioning thing, is totally valid, and can never be negated, never be. So therefore, we avoid the extreme of eternalism, we avoid the extreme of nihilism by coming to the middle way. So the middle way, I think that's really, really important. Now, so is that sort of okay or not? Am I?
That's great. No, that was
sure?
really good. It's interesting too, hearing the example with my name. It really kind of shakes things up a little bit. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean, most people we just take it for granted, you know, when people use our name. Oh, yeah, which, I mean, look, so if somebody walked into the room behind you and said, Aaron, you know, where's the dog, where's the cat, or Aaron, where's my dinner? You go, oh, it's over there, and you would naturally say, oh, it's over there. Or where's the book? Oh, where's the remote control for the TV? It's over there. And then you get back to what you're doing without thinking. You'd say, it's over there. You'd answer to it. So that's okay. Totally logical. We're not negating that Aaron. We're negating the Aaron that exists permanently and exists from its own side without depending upon anything else. So that's the Erin when Katie. Now somebody else had their hand up, but it's gone now. Oh, sorry, Erin, do you want? Oh, if you know, did someone else have their hand up? I thought they did. So, do people want any homework? I do have. Do you do? Oh, Shayla. Yes.
Coda has her hand up.
Oh, sorry.
Coda.
Oh, Coda. Yeah, yes, there he is. Yeah, Coda. Thank you. Coda. Yeah, you can't see everybody sometimes on the top, can you? Hello, Coda. How are you?
Everybody? Well, you went by it really, really quick, and I've been very curious about the winds. You
The
talked
winds.
about the earth, water, fire, and wind. And with death of animals and some people, I feel wind release out of the body.
Mhm.
And when at conception of my daughter, I felt wind come in my womb.
Well,
So you don't have to get into it now, but I'm really curious about these winds.
yeah.
And it
Okay.
felt like wind,
Wow.
just like whoosh, either up or in.
Amazing.
So,
Amazing. Well, you're very sensitive in that case, and
yeah.
I applaud that. Unfortunately, sensitivity can lead to heartache some stage, but we have to be good. Congratulations. So in terms of wind, let's go back to some basic principles of Buddhist philosophy. Well, is it Buddhist philosophy? Yeah, I suppose it is. It is. It's the way in Buddhism they understand how we're constituted, physical constituents. So we have the four elements: earth, water, fire, wind. So earth, water, fire, wind, and then we have, in addition to that, we have space and consciousness, and so I mean but basically everything around this, physical matter is. So a glass of water, obviously, the earth element is predominant in the glass, and the actual receptacle here, but then in the water here, then the water element is predominant. Now, there's the fire element. Well, there's fire element because the water can retain heat, and wind. I'm not sure about the wind element, but wind is light and moving, so there is light and movement in that. So earth, I mean, the definition, what is earth? Earth is that which is hard and obstructive. Water is that which is wet and moistening, so wet and moistening. Fire is that which is hot and burning, and then wind is that which is light and moving. So if we just think about that, those are the characteristics of physical things. So, for example, the human body, there's obviously hard. Hard is the earth element. So the earth element's that hard bit. Our bones are obviously very hard, and etc. And then the water element becomes very predominant when we talk about all the fluids in the body. So we have blood, we have phlegm, we have mucus, we have urine, we have lymphatic fluids, we have arterial blood, venous blood, capillary blood, we have tissue. So we have fluid in the eyes, we have fluid around the brain, we have fluid in the tissues. So earth water. So there's water is that which is wet and moist, because we have to stay moist, otherwise we die, don't we? Then fire. I think fire in the body, we can talk about in many different levels, but there's always fire occurring in the body because that's why we stay warm. That's when we're mammals. So we're generating fire, or we're generating heat all the time, that which is hot, and it occurs at a cellular level. I can't remember my biochemistry from university, but I remember the cellular pathways and how we actually generate heat in the body at a chemical level. And then when our muscles move, then we're generating more heat when we move. So there's heat. We are like generating fire, there's that element of fire all the time. And then there's wind. Now, wind is the more subtle. So they're going from the most gross to the more subtle. Wind at one level is the air coming in and out of our nostrils, which goes in. And then that energy pervades our body because that brings in oxygen, which then which go through the body to provide life, and then gets rid of carbon dioxide and other things, which makes us live. So the wind is not just the physical wind, not just the oxygen, the atmosphere we breathe in now, but it has an effect on the body, the whole body. Now, then when during death, those four elements stop working. They don't disappear, they stop working. And then the more subtle one becomes obvious, and then that one becomes not working, and then the more subtle one becomes more obvious, then that stops working until finally with the wind element, the gross wind element stops, and then we have the very subtle mind and the subtle winds. Now, it's said that what is it that transfers between life, afterlife, and the different schools of philosophy have different views on this. So some of the Buddhist schools of philosophy say it's a mental consciousness, but the Prasangika Madhyamika view and the Tantric view is that it's a very subtle wind energy, which acts as the vehicle for consciousness, and that consciousness has all the predispositions of karmic predispositions, which will fruit in the next life. So when we looked at that 12 links and we got to the 10th link, which was existence, that was the subtle consciousness. So death is occurring, and then at subtle consciousness, there's the wind, the consciousness, along with the karmic imprints, and that is what goes to the next life. But it goes via the intermediary of the bardo. The bardo is the intermediate state. Bardo literally means intermediate state. And then in that intermediate state, we can wait for the karma to ripen for us to go to find our next parents, if we're going to have birth from the womb, because there are different sorts of birth. There's birth from the womb, which is like a human mammal birth. There's birth from eggs. There's a spontaneous birth where we just spontaneously born, and then there's birth from heat and moisture, like some animals or some existences where just heat and moisture, like a chemical, organic chemicals come and life arises from that. So there are 4 different types of rebirth that we can take, and then but tend to go through the bardo first, and then we can go to that. Now, if we're really lucky, at the end of this life, we'll die very peacefully. We'll be thinking about the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, the 3 jewels, the Guru. We'll have done our practices on the death meditation. And when we go through these very subtle states of consciousness, we'll experience the clear light of death, and then we'll be reborn, maybe into a pure land or something, or a place like that, which is very pure, which is a Buddha's state of existence, where a Buddha's realm where there's no suffering, no gross suffering, and we can just exist with other great yogis and other practitioners and hear teachings directly from the Buddha, and then gradually become enlightened in that existence. So that's a possibility after this life, if we do everything correct. So you just got to get get the ducks to line up, and then we go to we go to a pure land at the end of this life. Okay. Well, that's about all I've got to say. You've been very patient. 1 hour and 3/4 is a big gig, and it's late in your part of the world. I'm going to have lunch now, so you're going to go to bed hopefully. Although, who's in New York? Linda's in New York. Yeah, Linda's. Wow, that must be. What time is it in New York now?
10 minutes to 11.
Oh, 10 minutes to 11. Oh, you're very late then. Yeah, you're very late. So I'm sorry for keeping you up.
That's my
Okay,
eyes are fluttering.
I'm sure they are. Yeah, we don't, but I'm glad you've got some dinner there to keep you going. Very good. Okay, well, look, thank you. We're now going to do the dedication prayers. I just got to find them on the where are the dedication prayers? Give me a second. Refuge and Bodhicitta, part 1 prayers. Part 1 prayers. Okay, part 1 prayers. Shariputra's questions. We'll get there. We'll be really slick at this by tomorrow. Or then next week. I mean.
Easily.
Hello, Tashi.
Sorry, I have one that I can pull up easily if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, cool. Oh, dedication and long life prayers. Here it is. It's on page page 14 of that handout. I can share, or okay, I'll share it, and then it's cool. Okay, share. Yep. Okay, everybody got that? It says dedication prayer to achieve Buddhahood. Make it bigger. Okay, dedication. Okay, due to this virtue, may I quickly become a Guru Buddha and lead all transmigrated beings without exception to that state. To actualize bodhicitta, may the precious supreme bodhicitta not yet born arise and grow. May that arisen not decline but increase more and more. Long life prayer for His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world. To the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. Now we'll just go down a bit further. Oops. Prayer for the long life of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. You uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplishes magnificent prayers, honoring the three sublime ones. Saviour of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. Okay, so that's cool. So you merely label persons. You've all got, are you merely labeled happy or merely labeled unhappy? Okay, good. Okay. Well, if that's okay, that's a good way to end then. Hopefully I see you all next week, and I've enjoyed this very much, and thank you for the opportunity. And if you see the people who took the Noble Link, thank them for the opportunities. And thank you, Shayla. You've been a wonderful host for looking after me, and we'll see you next week. Okay, goodbye. Thank you. Bye-bye.